microphone. Try this one out. Of course, every microphone is like the wands in Harry Potter. One size doesn't fit all. You've got to test out the ones that work best for your voice. But for me, this one beats my previous favorite mic by a landslide, and I absolutely love it. Anyway, without further ado, there's lots of exciting news this week, so let's get started. I'm just an alien. Space news number 1. You may have already heard this next piece of space news, but in case you haven't, October 21st marked the first time that NASA attempted to collect a sample of an asteroid. The OSIRIS-REx spacecraft touched down at the Nightingale region of the Bennu asteroid to collect samples. The process was a 6-second touchdown where it fired a big puff of gas so that it would blow up small pieces of the asteroid to be able to collect in its tray. They have 3 gas tanks on this spacecraft, so only 3 attempts. It appears to have been successful, but it will go through a process in its next couple of steps to show us if it did indeed collect these asteroid samples. If it was successful, then the next step is to return back to Earth with a proposed landing date in 2023. If it wasn't successful, their next attempt will happen in January of 2021. One thing they did learn when the craft actually touched down on the asteroid is that the asteroid rocks appear to be more brittle than rocks back on Earth. This spacecraft actually launched in 2016, and it took 2 years to reach its destination and another 2 years before it actually attempted to collect a sample for the first time. Now hold the phone, because I know some of you who are space nerds like me are going to say, well, this isn't the first time a sample from an asteroid has actually been collected. And you'd be right. It is, however, the first time that NASA attempted to collect a sample from an asteroid. There have been 2 other successful missions that were conducted by Japan and their Hayabusa spacecraft, one in 2010 and one actually arriving back here on Earth in December of 2020. The Bennu asteroid is 1,640 feet wide. That's 500 meters. This asteroid is made up of the pristine leftovers from the birth of our solar system, and scientists are hoping that with these samples they can glean more information about how our solar system started and life arose here on Earth. Also, studying asteroids helps benefit us in planetary defense. The more we know about these asteroids, the more we can protect our planet from potential collisions. Space fact number 2. NASA wants you to get excited about the moon, and they plan on announcing an exciting new discovery about our lunar neighbor on October 26th, which is this Monday. The news conference will take place at 12 p.m. EDT, 1600 GMT, and you can watch it live at www.nasa.gov/NASA Live. This new discovery about the moon will definitely reference their Artemis mission set to land humans back on the moon in 2024. These observations have definitely come from the Sophia Observatory, which is a German-American collaboration. What's special about this observatory is that it's attached to a 747 jet, which can take it up almost to the edge of the Earth's atmosphere, where it can collect data with less distortion that we get from ground-level observatories. These observations take place in 10-hour flight segments. Space news number 3. This one's pretty important, and it's something that scientists and humanitarians alike have been struggling with ever since the beginning of our space flights. This is about the Artemis Accords. These Artemis Accords are in conjunction with the Artemis mission to send humans back to the moon in 2024. And they are a set of guidelines that NASA has defined for crewed exploration of the moon. When you're dealing with multiple countries where there aren't any defined territories or separation, it's hard to figure out what types of international laws can govern these activities and make sure that everyone is sharing space equally. Scientists believe that space should always be for the good of humanity as a whole. The main struggle is how to govern a human settlement on the moon and deal with the management of its important resources. 8 countries have signed so far, and those include the UK, Italy, Australia, Canada, Japan, Luxembourg, the United Arab Emirates, and the United States. But there are a lot of key countries that haven't signed. We're looking at Russia, China, any of the countries in South America or Africa. Other countries that have not signed the treaty include Germany, France, India, and the European Space Agency as an organization, although some of the countries within that agency have already signed. The goal with these missions is to get humans back to the moon by 2024 and build a crewed lunar base by 2030. These countries that haven't signed yet have a number of concerns. These are bilateral agreements, not binding international law. Also, a lot of these guidelines have been set up by the United States, and many feel that this is a power play by the US to dominate this mission and dominate the exploration of the moon. Another frustration is how this has been promoted outside of the normal channels that this would go through. For example, the United Nations Committee on the Peaceful Uses of Outer Space. This isn't the first time we've attempted to do treaties to make sure that space is used in a peaceful way for the benefit and good of all mankind. There was the Outer Space Treaty in 1967 and the Moon Agreement in 1979. Space news number 4. With the ever-evolving space industry, the requirements for astronauts are starting to look a little different. The 2020s are again going to see a different type of astronaut. Let's go back to the beginning. The first astronauts at the beginning of the space program in the 1960s were largely drawn from military test pilots. But in the 1970s and 1980s, we began to see a shift towards more scientific education for the astronauts. Since then, it has been scientists and military-trained astronauts that have crewed missions to the International Space Station. There is so much science and research that now takes place in space, including the growing of human tissues and organs. Also, flights into space are going to look different. There's going to be longer space flights up to the moon and further all the way to Mars. The International Space Station is pushing harder and harder towards commercialization and will soon be welcoming larger crews that are crewed by commercial space vehicles, as well as welcoming some private astronauts. We're also seeing that private companies such as Virgin Galactic are trying to open space to more than just professional astronauts. Now, with the proliferation of new spacecraft such as SpaceX's Crew Dragon, astronauts now have the potential of needing to learn how to fly 4 different types of spacecraft. Not to mention the possibility of future privatized space stations. Astronauts are now doing more on social media as well, with videos, photography, and even blogging. I'm honestly just waiting for when they decide they really need some entertainment up there. I volunteer as tribute. Space news number 5. China is preparing for more lunar missions with their Change 7 mission. This mission is set to launch in 2024, and its goal is to study both on the ground and from up in orbit the south pole of the moon. Right now, China already has a mission operating on the far side of the moon. The China National Space Administration's Lunar Exploration and Space Engineering Center opened up a competitive call to institutions to develop payloads for 5 different spacecraft of this Change 7 mission. One such craft will be looking specifically for frozen water within the craters that never get direct sunlight. NASA is also planning to launch a mission 2 years earlier in 2022 to study the icy water on the moon. They've hired Intuitive Machines, a Houston-based company, to get their spacecraft to the South Pole. Their spacecraft is called the Polar Resources Ice Mining Experiment, or Prime 1. Space news number 6. I fell over there. That didn't go so well. 3 ISS crew members successfully touched down back on Earth on Wednesday, October 21st, just 10 days before the anniversary of the first crewed mission to the International Space Station. They landed in the Russian Soyuz MS-16 spacecraft. This next part's kind of serious, and I want to take a moment to really talk to you about the mindset that we should have about space moving forward. We're seeing a lot of unrest in the world, a lot of divide between the haves and the have-nots. I understand the frustration. However, it's not going to be that way forever, and part of the reason these tickets are so expensive is to fund what they want to do, to open up space to everyone. Space is the future of mankind. It has a lot of benefits here on Earth. Right now, we're looking at the Elysium effect. It was a sci-fi movie back in 2013 with Matt Damon. It was essentially where the rich left Earth and left behind the poor and impoverished people to deal with a destroyed planet. It's really easy to sit back and vilify people that are billionaires, like Jeff Bezos, like Richard Branson, and Elon Musk. But I promise you that what they're doing up in space is only going to benefit humanity here on the ground. Up in space, we can study climate change. We have created and invented so many new technologies that help us every day on Earth, from medical fields all the way down to cell phones. We need this type of innovation, and beyond that, as a human race, we need hope. We are at a crossroads. The Earth needs us, and I do truly believe that people like Elon Musk are spending their money not on sports teams and fashion brands. They are using it to fund something that us as a country or around the world couldn't afford to do. They are building up the space program. They are innovating it. They are cutting the costs, and they are making it easier for us to continue to move forward as one race. So please, before you believe what someone heatedly typed on Twitter, do your research. Look at the benefits. Ask the questions. Be an inquiring mind and use logic to decide your opinion on the matter, and realize that we shouldn't vilify the people that are trying to help. The whole point of why I do these space news things is not to give you all of the information, but to get you started, to get you intrigued, to introduce things to you so that you can go back and research more about them. NASA.gov is a great resource. Space.com is a great resource. My friend Astro Athens is a great resource. So please explore and make an enlightened and educated decision about the next few years of our life. Thank you. Well, that's it for the space news this week. Also, don't forget to check out my new Spaced Out playlist on Spotify. Yeah, in case you forgot, I do music too. I'm your host, Adara, signing out. Live long and prosper, and lead with love.
I'm just an